What if I told you that right now, in laboratories around the world, scientists are building machines so incredibly small that you could fit thousands of them on the tip of a needle? And these aren't just tiny random objects. They're programmable. They're intelligent. They can navigate through your bloodstream, hunt down cancer cells, and deliver medicine directly to where it needs to go. This isn't science fiction. This is molecular robotics. And it's happening right now. Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're diving deep into one of the most mind-bending frontiers of science, building life from the ground up, one atom at a time. By the end of this, you'll understand what these molecular machines actually are, why they're such a big deal, and what they could mean for the future of medicine, materials, and humanity itself. So stick around. Here's where it gets wild. When we talk about regular robots, the industrial arms you see in factories, the cars driving themselves on highways, those operate at scales where classical physics rules everything. Individual atoms? They don't matter. But molecular robotics? That's a completely different game. We're talking about machines so small that quantum effects become important. Thermal noise affects everything. The rules of the game are totally different than anything engineers trained on. So what exactly are molecular robots? Well, they're not robots in the traditional sense. They don't have motors and joints like a toy. They're carefully designed molecular systems, arrangements of atoms and molecules that can be programmed to execute specific tasks through chemistry and physics. Think of them as programmable matter, life itself reprogrammed. This vision goes back decades. In 1959, physicist Richard Feynman gave this legendary lecture called "There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom." He basically said, why can't we keep making things smaller? Why can't we manipulate individual atoms? For a long time, people thought he was fantasizing. Now, we're actually doing it. Okay, so why is this important beyond just being cool science? Imagine cancer treatments that could target tumor cells with absolute precision, killing the disease without destroying healthy tissue. Imagine materials so strong they outperform steel but lighter than aluminum. Imagine detecting diseases years before symptoms even appear. These aren't fantasies. These are real applications being worked on right now. The field sits at this intersection of nanotechnology, molecular biology, computer science, and engineering. It's probably one of the most ambitious scientific endeavors of the 21st century. And here's the thing, it's no longer theoretical. We've moved from what if to we're actually doing this. So how do you actually build something at the molecular level? The answer, DNA. DNA isn't just your genetic blueprint, it's also a programmable building material, and the reason is actually elegant. DNA works through complementary base pairing. A pairs with T, G pairs with C. That's it. That's the logic. Scientists realized if we can control the sequence of DNA, we can essentially program it to fold into specific three-dimensional shapes. Enter DNA origami. The technique is pretty straightforward conceptually. You take a long strand of DNA and add complementary staple strands that guide exactly where and how it folds. Under the right conditions, specific temperature and salt concentration, the DNA spontaneously folds into your designed shape. It's like molecular origami, but instead of folding paper, you're folding DNA at the nanometer scale. Once you have this basic scaffold, you can attach cargo to it. Proteins, enzymes, drug molecules. You've essentially created a programmable container or structure that can carry things and respond to its environment. And here's what blew scientists' minds. They could make these incredibly intricate structures with dimensions of tens to hundreds of nanometers, with precise cavities and channels. This moved the field from static structures to dynamic systems that could actually do things. DNA origami alone is impressive, but it's limited. You've got this tiny structure. So what? The breakthrough came when researchers figured out how to integrate these DNA structures with nanofluidic platforms. In plain English, they built microscopic channels and tracks in silicon and glass, then placed DNA origami structures inside these channels. Now suddenly, you have spatial control. You have the ability to move these structures around, guide them through specific paths, and coordinate them. It's like building railroad tracks for your molecular machines. The fabrication process is sophisticated. You're talking about electron beam lithography to etch channels 100 nanometers wide. That's about 1,000 times smaller than a human hair. Then chemical modification to attach linkers, then precise alignment of the DNA structures using controlled flow and chemical interactions. It's basically nanotechnology engineering at its most refined. All right, enough theory. Let's talk about what's actually being built right now. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania and University of Michigan have created microscopic autonomous robots. These are significantly larger than true molecular machines. We're talking 200 by 300 micrometers, but they demonstrate something crucial: integration of multiple robotic functions at scales approaching the cellular level. And get this, they're powered by light. They can actually swim through fluid. They can sense temperature changes in their environment. You can manufacture them for about 1 penny per unit. And, this is wild, they have tiny onboard computers enabling autonomous decision-making. We're not talking about dumb machines following preset instructions. These are systems making decisions independently. Beyond individual robots, researchers are also developing networks of programmable molecular systems capable of coordinated behavior. Imagine thousands of these molecular machines working together, communicating with each other, solving problems collectively. This is swarm robotics at the molecular scale. And here's proof this isn't fringe science. The industrial robot market has reached $16.7 billion globally. Companies are integrating AI technology to make robots adaptable and intelligent. In 2026, we're seeing major labs shift toward AI-ready environments where robotics, data, and computing infrastructure work seamlessly. This suggests molecular robotics is transitioning from pure research into actual application. Okay, so what does this actually do for us? Where are the real applications? Medicine. That's where the immediate transformative applications are. Targeted drug delivery. Imagine cancer chemotherapy that only destroys tumor cells, leaving healthy tissue untouched. That's the dream. That's what current chemotherapy fails at. It's a sledgehammer when what you need is precision surgery. Molecular robots could change that fundamentally. DNA origami can be designed with interior cavities precisely sized to hold drug molecules. The DNA scaffold protects the drug during transit through your bloodstream. But here's the key part. It only releases when it encounters specific disease biomarkers that signal this is a cancer cell. You could also design these systems to carry enzymes that only activate under conditions present exclusively in diseased tissue, or display multiple targeting ligands simultaneously, enabling recognition of cell surface signatures unique to specific diseases. This is targeted medicine at the molecular level. Beyond treatment, imagine diagnostic systems of unprecedented sensitivity. DNA origami can display multiple detection molecules, aptamers, antibodies, capable of recognizing disease signatures at concentrations currently undetectable by any conventional method. Cancer detection years before symptoms, infectious disease identification in minutes, genetic disorder identification at the DNA level, neurodegenerative disease markers appearing decades before Alzheimer's or Parkinson's manifests. We could catch diseases at their earliest stages when treatment is most effective, when intervention is cheapest, when outcomes are best. And then there's the truly transformative possibility: molecular robots that actually repair cells. Imagine systems capable of correcting genetic mutations directly, removing damaged organelles, refolding misfolded proteins, the hallmark of neurodegenerative disease, restoring damaged mitochondria. This isn't being tested on humans yet, but the conceptual pathway is clear. It's molecular surgery at the cellular level. But medical applications are just the beginning. Materials science could be equally transformative. What if you could create materials that change their properties on demand? Self-healing composites that autonomously repair cracks and damage. Materials that alter their mechanical properties based on stress. Flexible when you need flexibility, rigid when you need strength. Substances that change color or optical properties on command. Surfaces that dynamically adjust their adhesiveness or water resistance. These aren't normal materials. They're materials with embedded intelligence. At the materials level, You could engineer substances approaching theoretical physical limits. Materials with strength-to-weight ratios far exceeding anything we've ever built. Materials that function at extreme temperatures. Materials that can withstand and repair radiation damage. Aerospace applications. Construction. Deep space exploration. And then there's computing. Quantum computing architecture. Ultra-efficient solar cells mimicking natural photosynthesis at quantum efficiency levels. Metamaterials with optical properties impossible in conventional materials. The possibilities are genuinely boundless. Okay, so why aren't we doing all this stuff already? Why haven't molecular robots revolutionized medicine if they're so promising? Simple answer: it's incredibly hard. There are massive challenges. Right now, these systems are created one at a time, essentially serially. Going from creating thousands to creating trillions of identical molecular robots simultaneously, that requires fundamental innovation we haven't figured out yet. And quality control. How do you ensure consistency when manufacturing trillions of nanoscale devices? At the molecular scale, everything is noisy. Thermal energy causes random motion. Molecules don't follow commands like industrial robots. They're probabilistic. They're stochastic. How do you establish reliable control and communication between distributed molecular components? How do you power these systems? How do you incorporate sensing and responsive control inside nanoscale structures? These are hard problems. Safety for medical use. If you're putting these inside human bodies, you need absolute certainty about safety. What's the immune response going to be? How do you ensure these systems break down into harmless byproducts? How do you prevent off-target effects? What are the long-term safety profiles? We're talking about novel synthetic structures. And honestly, there are fundamental questions about molecular scale physics we haven't fully answered. How do self-assembly processes actually work? How do you encode and retrieve information reliably? These aren't engineering challenges. These are science challenges. We need new understanding. This is where it gets serious. Molecular robotics raises questions that transcend engineering. Biosecurity. The capability to engineer biology at the fundamental level is powerful, and power can be misused. Could these techniques be weaponized? Could someone create novel pathogens or toxins? How do you monitor misuse globally? How do you promote beneficial applications while restricting dangerous ones? These are legitimate concerns that need thoughtful answers. And then there's the deeper stuff. When does a programmed molecular system become alive? Is there a meaningful distinction between living and non-living systems? What does it mean to re-engineer biology? These questions have been debated for centuries, but molecular robotics makes them urgent and practical. We're not discussing abstract philosophy anymore. In the next decade, 2026 to 2035, I expect we'll see initial clinical trials of DNA origami-based drug delivery. Advanced diagnostic platforms in specialized medical centers. Molecular robotics becoming a standard research tool in materials science. The medium term, 2035 to 2050. Treatments become routine. You might even see applications to human enhancement, augmented immune systems, extended health span. The long term, 2050 and beyond. Here's where it gets wild. Life is programmable matter. Organisms designed from first principles. Space exploration. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm saying it's scientifically plausible. Let me ground this in reality. Molecular robotics has moved from theoretical speculation to active scientific reality. DNA origami works. But there's a massive gap between laboratory demonstrations and practical deployment. That gap is typically 10 to 20 years, full of obstacles. The field hasn't solved the hard engineering problems yet. Scalability, control, safety, long-term deployment. But here's the thing. There are no fundamental physics barriers preventing this. It's not blocked by theory. It's blocked by engineering. The field has achieved critical mass. Major research groups in North America, Europe, Asia, government funding. The momentum is real. So why should you care? Because molecular robotics represents a fundamental shift in humanity's relationship with biology. We're not observers anymore. We're engineers. That's revolutionary. That's terrifying. That's incredible. Technologies that could eliminate diseases, create materials we can barely imagine, answer fundamental questions about the nature of life itself. But they also require wisdom, foresight, responsible development, international coordination. Ethical reflection. This technology develops better, more responsibly, when people understand it, when the public is engaged, when society participates. So subscribe to stay updated. Leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone curious. The journey has begun. The next decade will be extraordinary. Thanks for watching.